I really hope that you'll learn something from my story. My name's Christian. I'm just a regular guy and all, and I never thought I would ever make friends with a homeless person. I used to scorn the homeless. They have no jobs and do nothing but beg. What particularly drove me mad was that they kept pestering everyone. In our town, the homeless usually hang out in dumpster areas. Sometimes my dad and I would just drive around town and suddenly come across whole gangs of those guys lounging about and picking up bottles. They have no purpose. They're just trash. They keep bugging others, shouting profanities at best. I heard countless stories of homeless guys stealing purses or snatching food right from restaurant tables. There's a bridge in our town the homeless often sleep under. They can also be spotted at the train station and in the abandoned cinema building. I honestly wouldn't recommend going to those places. However, I've changed my opinion quite drastically. One day when I was walking to school, a homeless guy stopped me. He seemed far too young for his status. He had horrible hair. It looked like a bird's nest. He asked me for some spare change to buy food. My parents don't give me much pocket money, even though my dad earns quite well. I felt sorry for that guy. After all, he seemed kind and intelligent. I gave him some money and he tried to hug me. He stank so much you could smell it miles away. He was thanking me wholeheartedly. I was worried he would actually hug me. Then I would have to wash my clothes dozens of times. But at the end of the day, he is a human being, and the thought of doing something good for him cheered me up. While at school, I thought about what I had done. My parents would kill me if they found out that I had given away the money. But I was confident that I did the right thing and that the money would be spent on food, not booze. So, I came home and got down to my homework. When I was finished with maths, I went outside to water the front yard. It's the best one in town, so while my parents are away, I have to look after it. When I was about to go back inside, I heard someone going through our trash bin. I walked over to check what was going on and saw that homeless guy here. He gave me an innocent look. I didn't want to chase him away, as I could really put myself in his shoes. I went inside the house to bring him some food. I took some toast and a jar of orange jam, and then heard the door open. I realized in horror that the homeless guy sneaked into the house. I thought I'd go crazy. We have a good house full of pricey stuff, like a huge TV, Dad's work computer, robot vacuum, and he could easily snatch any of that. I asked him to go away, and he burst into tears. He was crying like a baby. He started telling me about his life. It turned out that the guy used to be a stockbroker, who then lost a couple $1 million. He had 2 sons, but his wife took them away, so he was left all alone. He said his name was York Paulson. He also told me that he had become an outcast among fellow homeless people, and that he was ashamed of being one. York was well educated, but the huge debts turned him into a nobody. He was hiding away from debt collectors, and his kids were living in the slums. I kinda warmed to that guy. Dunno, there was something very humane and kind about him. I never imagined the homeless could be so smart. I thought they had nothing but booze on their mind. He looked awful though. The worn-out jeans with holes in them were just horrible, and his shirt was all dirty and covered in spots. It seemed like he hadn't showered for a couple of months at least. Do you know what spoiled yogurt smells like? Well, the homeless guy stank like 24 times stronger than that. He asked me for just anything, even if it would be some bread or sugar. I already got an idea what to do about him. My father, who's a financial consultant, was looking for a business partner, and a broker like York is exactly what he needed. Finding one in our town is like finding water in the desert. I called Dad and passed the phone to York, and there it started. York was speaking in field-specific terms and using complicated concepts. He mentioned such things as agreeing with the balance, reaching the peak, and meeting macroeconomic indicators. You could tell Dad was thrilled with this conversation. When York passed the phone back to me, Dad said, "Don't let this guy go. Looks like I've finally found a business partner." When Dad came home, he had a long chat with York. He wasn't concerned with York being homeless. They spoke till like 2 in the morning. In the end, Dad offered to give York a lift home, but he said he didn't have one. Dad booked him the best room at a hotel and asked him to show up at work tomorrow. He also gave him some money to buy a proper suit. York turned out to be an excellent broker. He knew exactly which stocks would bring the highest return. He became my dad's right-hand man. Dad's company started growing at a crazy pace. A month later, you could never tell York had been homeless before. You would always see him wearing a well-ironed suit, nice shirt and stylish tie. He was accompanied by a personal driver at all times. Dad would get back home from work very late, usually with York. I started calling him Uncle York. He would help me with my homework, teach me the basics of economics and ways to avoid financial pitfalls. He turned out to be a great guy who made friends not just with me, but my ever-busy dad as well. This story taught me to believe in people, even those at the very bottom. A couple of months back, York had nothing to eat, and now he's become my dad's business partner. This is how I understood that appearances can be deceiving. If everyone knew that, the world would become a much better place.